So in this video we will going to talk about the categories of biofuel. So biofuel can be divided into three or four, mainly four categories. So biofuels can be generally classified into four categories. So first class is first generation biofuel. So first generation biofuel can be made from food sources such as sugars, such as starch, which is carbohydrate, vegetable oil, animal fats, using conventional technology. Okay, so common first generation biofuel include your biodiesel, your biogas, your bioalcohol, your vegetable oil, and bioether. Okay, so okay, so now what is the problem? The problem is, as you can see here, we are using the food sources to produce the biofuel, right? So that is quite problematic because it creates a negative impact on the food economy, which ultimately increase the food price and hunger. That is why we have to shift from the first generation biofuel to the second generation biofuel. So in second generation biofuel, we are using mainly the non-food crops, or we are using the food crops, mainly the non-edible part of the food crops. Okay. So remember, in the first video we have told you that we can produce such kind of crops whose edible part can be sold in the market and whose non-edible part can be sold to the automobile industries or can be used to produce biofuel, right? So that is the thing, that is the example of second generation biofuel, where we are using the portion of the food crops that are not edible as a second generation biofuel. That can be fruit skins, peeling, wood chips, husks, and your stems. Okay, and the name of the process is thermochemical reaction or biochemical conversion process that can be useful for the production of such kind of biofuel. So example of such kind of biofuel is cellulose, ethanol, and biodiesel. Okay, though it eliminates the chance of creating a negative impact on the food industry, there is also a problem that the production is quite complicated. Okay, and surprisingly here the emission of the greenhouse gas is also less as compared to the first generation biofuel. That is why using of second generation biofuel is far more better than first generation biofuel. There can be a question in your question paper that what is the difference between first generation biofuel and the second generation biofuel. Then under such circumstances you have to write about that first generation biofuel is produced by mainly food sources. On the other hand, second generation biofuel we are producing by non-food sources, or in most of the cases the non-edible part of the food sources. Okay, in first generation biofuel we are using conventional technologies, and in second generation biofuel we are using biochemical conversion reaction or thermochemical reactions. Okay, in first generation biofuel the emission of the greenhouse gas is high as compared to the second generation biofuel. Okay, and most importantly the process in case of first generation biofuel is easier, but the process in case of second generation biofuel is quite complicated. Okay, now after developing the second generation biofuel, scientists now have also developed the third generation biofuel, and here we are using the microorganisms. Okay, mainly algae. Okay, example is butanol. Okay, so here the microorganisms like algae can be grown in those lands which is unsuitable for food production. Okay, and here we are reducing by using those kind of plants, those kind of soils which are unsuitable for food production. We are reducing the strain on already depleted water source. Okay, because here we are using those waters and land which are already useless, right? And that is how we are also reducing the amount of depleted water source. Okay, and we are also not creating any kind of further strain on already depleted water source, because it is also important concern that we don't have a infinite amount of water source, right? That is why we have to also keep a special attention on that. And along among these several advantages, there are a disadvantage, that is, for production of the crops that ultimately give us third generation biofuel, we are using biofertilizers so that the crops can grow well, right? So under such circumstances, the biofertilizers that we are using, especially in case of third generation biofertilizer production, those biofertilizer can cause pollution to the environment. Okay, so that is the idea for third generation biofuel. Here we are using microorganisms like algae, example your butanol. So here microorganisms like algae are grown in with the help of waters and lands that are already unsuitable. Okay, and here by doing this we are reducing the strain on already depleted water source. Okay, and one disadvantage is the fertilizer we are using for the production of crops that will ultimately give us the biomass for biofuel can create environmental pollution. Okay, so that is the third generation biofuel. In the fourth generation biofuel, we are taking the help of RDT, that is recombinant DNA technology. With the help of this thing, we are producing the genetically modified crops that have the ability to take in high amount of carbon. Okay, and later those crops are harvested to produce biomass. Okay, so in the first generation biofuel, remember we have used normal food source, right? Now from the first generation, in the second generation we have used the non food crops or non-edible part of the food crops, right? And in the third generation biofuel we have used microorganisms, and now in the fourth generation biofuel we are using genetically engineered crops that will ultimately give us the biofuel. Okay, the crops here are first converted into fuel via second generation techniques. Okay, and here the fuel is first pre-combusted and then the carbons is captured and they are geosequestered. Okay, meaning they are simply stored in depleted oil, gas fields and unminerable coal seams. Okay, so some of the fuels here are carbon negative because as their production pulls carbon from the environment. Okay, so example of fourth generation biofuel is green gasoline and green diesel. If you are having difficulties in understanding these 2 points, I will recommend you to not remember this, because you should only remember about the how we are producing fourth generation biofuels. We are producing it from crops that are genetically engineered and that have the ability to take in carbons, right? And here we are using the second generation technique, right? And examples are very important: green gasoline and green diesel. Okay, so that is the 4 generation of biofuels, and we have told you that why we have developed 4th generation biofuel, because there were some disadvantages of first generation biofuel that was solved by second generation biofuel, and there were some disadvantages of second generation biofuel too that was in turn solved by third generation biofuel. And then due to the huge success of recombinant DNA technology, we have also decided to create biofuels with the help of recombinant DNA technology, right? So that was the idea in this video. So we are wrapping up this video here. Thank you.